Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Anxiety Wise podcast. I have Sarah joining me today. We were talking about this and we have gotten a lot of questions on what is the process, how does it work, give us a little background, and what can I expect? So I usually do this in discovery calls when I work with people, but I thought this could be a good episode that'll be short, kind of to the point, but allow you to listen to it, share it, and then for those of you that end up working with me, you can get me on a call one-to-one and we can go deeper if need be. But thanks for joining us, my lovely wife, who does not necessarily want to be on the camera right now or be a part of this. But not only has Sarah, been by my side through all this work, she's gone through these processes more than once. As a matter of fact, she got to be the recipient of me learning and working and getting a lot of tips and tricks and techniques and things that have helped me serve more people have been in thanks to her analytical, non-visual brain. So
I think I was more of his guinea pig than recipient. I think that's a better term.
Okay. Sorry to all the guinea pigs out there. So I'm just going to dive right into it. A lot of the questions I get right out of the gate. Okay, look, Nick, just explain the process to me. So in order to explain the process, the first thing I want to jump into is I want to take a quick step back and go, what is trauma or post-traumatic stress? And what are negative emotions? Things like anger triggers, guilt, shame, frustration, resentment, rejection, abandonment, etc. I'll go into those too. But I'm going to start with post-traumatic stress. So let's explain what it is. Let's say you're 18 years old and you get attacked by a saber-toothed tiger. Okay, it's a really bad day, obviously, but you survive it and you go home that night. What is supposed to happen is you go to bed, and while you're unconscious, you're sleeping, your brain makes sense of the day. It says, wow, okay, I woke up in the morning, I was safe and okay, had a really bad middle part of the day, and I went to bed, I survived the event. So now we've got to do something with the memory and all the emotions that I felt when it happened. So what the brain does while you're sleeping, if you get good sleep, it says, okay, saber-toothed tiger makes a really bad pet. Check, I got it. And it takes that memory and it moves it to the long-term memory storage, part of your brain, where you can access it but not feel it. That's where it's supposed to be. And then it takes the emotions and moves those back to where the part of your brain where your emotions come from. So essentially you have this memory and these emotions that are now separate from each other, stored in the correct part of your brain. You might wake up the next day, be still shaken up a little bit from the event, but before long, you're like, yeah, remember that time that was really bad? I almost died. It's so funny. I can laugh about it now, but I don't feel anything. Your body is designed to heal. If you break your leg, you cut your arm, those things will heal if they're given the right care. It's like, okay, put them in the right scenario and they will heal themselves. And this is why specifically post-traumatic stress is often, you'll struggle to disconnect these things in typical talk therapy. And just for the record, I'm not against therapy, but specifically for post-traumatic stress, what I'm going to explain to you now, this is why you can struggle with it, because you're awake, you're conscious, and you're communicating, you're discussing it. So the process I walk you through, there'll be no discussion on that, and I'll get to that in a minute. So how do we, essentially what I do, there's nothing special about me. This is basically a biohack for REM sleep. We're getting your brain, your mind in the position to process the information the way it would, but while you're awake. A lot of times at this point, I'll get the, is it hypnosis? No, what we do is not hypnosis. You're in control of the whole thing. You're awake. There's no hypnosis. So how does it work? How do we do this? Well, the first part is I got to get your conscious brain out of the way, but we got to trigger the memory. And again, you don't need to tell me about it. So I would start out by getting you to do some visual imagery. I would get you to picture yourself as a baby and turn that black and white. Maybe it's with a parent, maybe a parent's not safe, maybe you use Santa Claus, you could use Jesus, you could use Scooby-Doo, somebody's with you at birth. I just want a general picture. Now I can modify this process to my client, so don't take this as a hard and fast. I'm giving you more of a generalization of how this might go. You picture yourself as a baby, you turn it black and white. Your brain now has a bookend at the beginning of your life before anything really happened. Then I'm going to have you picture two, which would be from this morning. Something like drinking coffee, brushing your teeth, having breakfast, getting dressed, something generic in nature, and you're going to turn that picture black and white. Once you're in your mind, you've made both of these imaginary pictures, You have a picture 1 at the start of your life and a picture 2 from this morning. When we're there, I'm going to then have you kind of walk through your life. I'm going to take you on a journey a little bit, as they'd say, from picture 1 forward. And we're going to let your mind find the first memory your mind brings you to, where you feel the emotions of fear, terror, helplessness, or what might be considered a traumatic event. When your mind finds that memory, all you need to do is drop into that memory. You're going to tell me, Nick, man, I'm 18. I can feel that emotion. On a scale of 0 to 10, 10 being strong, it's a 9. Okay, I'm going to write down a 9. I'm going to ask you roughly how old you were. You're going to say, I was 18. And then I might say, what are the emotions you feel there? Because sometimes you can have a trauma or post-traumatic stress along with other emotions that get attached to it. For instance, I'll use a generic, like a combat veteran that lost somebody in combat and they trauma from watching it happen, but they have survivor's guilt. Those can be 2 separate things to work on. So once you've triggered the memory, you give me those generic details. I'm going to say something funny. I like to say funny things, right?
Yeah.
Well,
Super funny.
yeah, you usually get them like a day later. You're like, oh, I get it. I think I'm funny. Kids think I'm funny.
Mhm.
So I'm going to get you out of your head. I might make you do a math problem, tell you a funny joke, and then we're going to move forward. So some people might be like, Nick, I have so much trauma. I don't know where to start. That's okay. I hear that often. A lot of times we're going to find the earliest one that your mind brings you to, the biggest one, and the most recent one, and maybe a couple in between. We don't need to find 40 out of 40. The trauma usually is neurologically connected. So a lot of times when we wipe out the earliest one, the biggest one, and the most recent one, a lot of the stuff in the middle goes away. But it's not I have to find every single one. And a lot of times people will go, well, I don't even know what trauma I have or if I have trauma. And I'll break that down in a minute as well. But let's assume for illustration purposes, you had 3 different traumatic events. I'm just going to find them. You're going to find them. You're going to tell me how strong the emotion feels as you're imagining that you're back in that moment, reliving it, and what the emotion is and how old you are. So if we have our 3 events, I've then got to get you in a spot where you're ready, your mind or your brain is ready to do the processing, to disconnect the emotional connection and get this memory where it belongs. So how do we do that? That's the biohack REM sleep part, or that's kind of how I term it. Essentially, I'm going to have you for this illustration. I'll use Sarah and I, like I've had her a lot of times where we'll watch a movie in our basement. We kind of have like a movie room set up. I'll say, imagine that you're on the couch and you're going to put that black and white picture 1 up on the TV so that you can see it, you as a baby. Okay, got it. Then I got to get her looking at somebody else. Sarah's a believer, so I might have her look at Jesus. Okay, Jesus is sitting next to you. If it's not that, I could put the dog on the couch. I just need her conscious mind focused on someone or something else on the couch. Once she's there and she's like, I can see that, I'm going to let her know that that person or that dog is going to watch her movie play from picture 1 to picture 2. Now, I'm giving you the high level. I'm not getting super into the weeds right now. But so that you can visualize it in your mind, you're essentially watching someone else watch your movie. You're not allowed to think about it or watch it. What's happening is I'm getting your conscious brain out of the memory, out of the emotion. It's already been triggered. That was the key piece, was to trigger it. Once you're watching that other person, your subconscious hears me tell it. The other person's going to watch your movie from picture 1 to picture 2. It's black and white. It's black and white. When we do this like 30 seconds at a time, maybe 6 or 7 times. And as this is happening, your conscious brain, you're like, this is so stupid. There's no way this is going to work. You're watching Jesus, Scooby-Doo, your friend. It doesn't matter. You're watching somebody else on the couch. And what's happening is the subconscious brain is running the movie and it's going, you know what? I was safe before and after this event. It's black. It's old. It's an old movie. And it starts to pull the emotion away from the memory. Once I know that you're where we need you to be and the emotion is pulled away from the memory, I'm going to have you step into the movie at picture 2, which would be the end of the movie. So in your mind, you're going to imagine, hey, I'm stepping into the movie. I'm having coffee this morning. That's your black and white picture 2. And I essentially tell you, we're going to go backwards from picture 2 to picture 1. Now, again, there's a little more wording and part of the process that goes into this. But for illustration purposes, it's like 1.5 to 2 seconds. You're going from picture 2 to picture 1. I don't know why specifically this does this, but it literally is like flipping a switch with your amygdala. The amygdala is a walnut-sized piece of your brain. that holds on to the memory and emotions when you don't get that proper sleep, when your brain ends up having post-traumatic stress. It's because that never got processed correctly. And the brain stuck it in your amygdala, and that activates that fight or flight response. So on this rewind part, it like wakes up the amygdala and it says, whoa, hey guys, we got this memory and emotions in the wrong spot. And it moves the memory and emotion to where they belong. So when we're done with this process, we'll go back through and I'll have you drop into those memories. Now, if they were all 8s, 9s, and 10s, when we go back and look at them, the trauma response is going to be gone. Your brain has now processed the information. I know this sounds foolish. It sounds too good to be true and too simple, but it's worked a gazillion times. Been doing this for 7 years, right? The first time you did it, you probably thought I was nuts too, right?
He was crazy. This is never going to work.
Right. So, essentially, when we're done, we're going to walk you through it, and I'm going to verify that these emotions are gone. Now, we can disconnect a trauma, and you can go back to him like, Nick, well, I still feel it, but it's different now. Okay, what do you feel now? Well, I feel a lot of sadness. That's an emotion. That's when we flip over and we work on the emotional side of the house. So on the emotion side, is that good so far? Am I kind of framing that all right for everybody? Okay. So on the emotion side, I start out sharing with people about fire. I like to use this one. As little kids, there's always that moment where like maybe you touch a candle or you touch a stove that's hot, but something burns you and it scares you in the moment. Now, if we were together and Sarah, you and I are kids and we're 3 years old and you burn your finger, it's going to scare the heck out of you, right?
Correct.
Now, if tonight we went down and sat around a campfire, do you need to be afraid of the fire or do you just need to know it's hot and can burn you?
I just need to know it's hot.
So you just need the learnings, correct?
Mm-hmm.
This part might not sound like much. It sounds like we're having a talk therapy session right here. This is not about therapy or talking about it. Her conscious and subconscious brain are linking up. They're like, you're right. I don't need to be afraid of fire. That's not what keeps me safe. It's the knowledge that it can burn me. Now, in the moment you get burned, fear is a normal emotion. Holy cow, that hurts. I got to get away from it. But you should not be able to look back at old memories and feel negative emotions. So if you look back to an event when you're 10 years old and you feel a bunch of sadness, that emotion is not serving you. Was it sad in the moment? Absolutely. But that's where I will step in and walk you through a process. It's similar in nature to what I already explained, but it's a little bit more creative. And again, I don't need to know what you're working on. So you could have a lot of guilt and shame around something you did that you just you've carried your whole life. I don't need to know what it is. You trigger the guilt or shame. I'm going to get you away from the emotion. Again, tell you a dumb Nick joke, or as my kids would say, dumb dad joke, is it not stupid dad joke or bad dad jokes? Bad dad jokes. But once you're away from that emotion, we're going to walk through the process. When we're done, you'll be able to go back and look at that memory with those emotions. You'll see it. You'll have all your learnings and you won't feel it. It'll be objective. Now think about it. A lot of times I'll get people laughing because I'll say, look, if worry, a lot of people worry about money. If worrying about money put more fun coupons in your bank account, there'd be a lot of rich people in this world, especially you, right? Yeah, you'd be loaded.
That would be great.
Right. You're not so bad with it anymore. But again, it's a framing process. It sounds too good to be true, but here's where we're going to flip into a little bit of Q&A. Sarah's going to ask me some questions that I've had a lot of people ask me commonly, and I want to set some good expectations. And I'm going to actually hit the expectations before you ask a few questions, or should we do it the other way around?
Let me ask a few questions
Okay,
first.
go for it.
So maybe you could speak to this. So I don't think I could identify my emotions. I just called it like a bundle of anxiety. Like I was like, I don't know. I just feel frazzled all the time. Maybe you could speak to that because there may be some people out there who just can't identify a trauma or a particular emotion or something that is giving them that funky feeling and it just feels overwhelming. Where do you start?
So that's a great question. I actually don't love the term anxiety. I think in the mental health world, a lot of people get labels thrown at them. Anxiety is a very generalized term. The name of the business, it's been helpful because a lot of people, you say, do you have post-traumatic stress? Everybody's like, nope. You say, anybody got anxiety? Oh yeah, a million hands go up. Anxiety can mean different things for different people. So specifically to your question, Sarah, you were like a ball of spaghetti knotted together, and you'd trigger one emotion and like 4 ancillary emotions would come from it. So that's why I tell people generally expect to do 3 to 4 sessions on average. The first couple of sessions, we're getting the biggest, heaviest emotions and any trauma that's in there out of the way. That way, when we go into sessions 3 and 4, it's going to be a little conversational and not in a talk therapy way. What I do is not therapy. You're not going to be sharing details with me. But for instance, I might say to you, fine, Sarah, like, what are some of the things that you feel um, when that get you really triggered emotionally? Let's say before I started doing some work with you, what was something that would get you?
Oh, if people were coming over.
Oh, people come over.
Mhm.
What's the emotion you feel when people come over?
Overwhelmed.
And what else?
Dread.
Dread. This was actually an emotion for Sarah. There was like generalized anxiety for her. We had some friends coming over. It was literally 4 people we knew well, and Sarah became a different species. She wasn't even human. And I'm like, what is going on right now? And we went out to run the process. Of course, she didn't want to do it in the moment because when you're triggered, you're like, I don't want to do this, but it's the best time to do it. And she's like, I just feel dread. I feel dread all the time. And I'm like, oh my God, you've never used that word with me before. And actually, I did a previous podcast with you and Cher Fisher on dread specifically. And when you said that, we ran the process. You went from a 10 to a 0.
Mhm.
Do you remember what you said to me the next morning?
I can get up and I don't feel totally overwhelmed by the day ahead of me.
She actually looked at me and said, I hate you.
Oh, I did? Sorry.
Yeah, we're laying in bed. She's like, I hate you. I'm like, what are you talking about? She's like, I know I got to feed the chickens. I got to do homeschool the kids. She had her list of things to do. She goes, but I don't feel any emotion around any of it. The emotions aren't what made her efficient. It's okay, I got to get things done. The emotion actually drains your energy. So to wrap that one up, it's a hunting process. That's why I can't promise somebody, hey, 2 sessions or 3 sessions or 4. Generally, most people are feeling a million times better after the first 2.
So
But
you're gonna help people identify what it is the emotion is you're going after.
yep,
They don't have to know.
yes, resentment was a big one for me that I couldn't identify until it got pointed out to me. And then we went after it and I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe how much that was affecting me. So that's my job. You can't mess the process up. It's my job to guide you. And your brain will present the information. It wants to get rid of this stuff. It doesn't want to hold on to
All
it.
right. Maybe you talked about 3 to 4 sessions on average, but how long are the sessions? Do you have to meet up in person? What are expectations after the sessions?
Okay. So generally speaking, I block an hour and a half per session. Most sessions don't go a full hour and a half. Once in a while, if somebody is super visual and they're just hanging in the pocket, and my artistic folks are generally, we can go for a while. I don't know why, but they're just so visual and they're not super analytical. For my engineer brain analytical style people that have trouble visualizing, like Sarah, I slow things down and the process still works great, but we might get through an hour's worth of work and she might be like, you know what, I've had enough. Again, I'm overgeneralizing because not everybody's the same, but generally speaking, it's an hour to an hour and a half per session. When we get to sessions 3 and 4, it might not be that long. It could be if we're really having to kind of talk through and figure out and navigate to what that specific emotion is. But generally speaking, it's not quite as long.
Okay. And what about sleep? Like, so after a session, what should I expect? Is it going to help sleep at all? Because a lot of people aren't sleeping right. Any effect there?
Yes. So sleep, that one I want to hit, and I'm going to hit the expectations. So I want, for whoever's going to listen to this is very, 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 very important. I'll set these expectations. I'll work with somebody. They'll do 2 to 3 sessions and they'll get a message. I don't think this worked for me. And I'll be like, what are you talking about? I recently worked with somebody that I really, really enjoyed working with this person. We did 3 sessions. I got that message. And I'm like, okay, let's get on a call. We got on a Zoom. And by the way, we can do this in person or Zoom. Most people I work with are via Zoom because they're all over the world. Most people in this country are it's usually US based, but I do work with people globally. So, but the expectation on the sessions, this person got through 3 sessions, was like, I don't know if this worked. I don't think this worked. So we went back through all the things that we had worked on, the traumatic events, the big negative emotions. And I'm like, can you feel it? Can you feel it? Can you feel it? She's like, no, I don't feel anything, but I'm so emotional. And she started to get teared up a little bit and a little emotional. And I'm like, well, tell me a little bit about when you get emotional. Well, I just feel like when I'm explaining things, I'm trying to express myself and my kids are just like, ma, just let it go. Or, it's not that big a deal. Ma. Like, and then, I might get my husband and say, hey, okay, well, we'll talk about it later. She's like, I just feel so dismissed. And I was like, oh my God, there it is. We went after that emotion. It was a big emotion from like, I think a 3 to 6 year old event. I don't remember specifically. We plucked that one weed out in session 4. And the next day, the text message I got was, I slept for 9 hours. I feel amazing. No more crying, no more emotional wonkiness. So what you need to understand is that you're going to feel better. You should not be able to feel anything that we work on and disconnect, but new stuff comes to the surface. And one of the fears that I get from a lot of people is, I know the me now, I've stuffed enough of that down. I'm afraid that if I open Pandora's box, this could get out of control. And I'm scared of that. That's a valid fear. I understand that. What I will tell you is that has not been what my clients have experienced. You get rid of the big stuff and it's like, ooh, I feel calm. So to your comment on the sleep, Sarah, the first 2 sessions, people are like, I'm sleeping way better. I usually get the comment, Nick, I feel lighter. I feel like 100 pounds has come off my shoulders. You will know the work we did is working. But again, it could be first and second session are the big ones. So that's why when I work with somebody, you got to do 2 sessions. Like that's a mandatory. I can't get all the big emotions and all the trauma in one session. So is that good for expectation side of the
Mhm.
house?
I think can I add something?
Yeah.
Sometimes it's hard to self-evaluate your own self too. So I'm guessing, because this is probably what I said to him, is this isn't working. I don't feel any different until you live in your new self for some time. And then you get into a position where you would previously have been triggered by maybe a negative emotion. And then you see it and you see yourself going, I used to react to that and now I don't want to. So it's not going to be like necessarily that you instantly know that this has worked until maybe you're put back in those situations. And it took some time. I would say even a few months for me to notice how much improvement there was because I wasn't reacting to things that previously set me off.
No, that's a good point because even though you'll drop into the old memories that you could have felt when we first started working and you can't feel them, there's that side of your brain going, yeah, right. Is it really gone? Will I feel it tomorrow? With the trauma, you're going to know the trauma's gone. You will literally feel it physiologically in your body. You'll go, wow, something's different. Like that.
Can I share?
Yeah.
I was a physical therapist in my previous career, so I was trained to watch people and watch physiology and how people move and facial expressions and looking for pain. And I'll never forget one of the very first people Nick worked with on trauma. He came to our house. He looked like a skeleton of a person, gray, sunken, posture withdrawn. You could just see pain. And they went and did their session. I have no idea what they did, but when he came out, his eyes were bright, color was back in his face, posture improved. And my PT brain went, okay, I have no idea if that really worked on the mental, but I can see it physically. And for me, I'm a science, like, gotta touch it, see it, feel it person. And I could see it. And we've seen a lot of people since then where their whole body demeanor has changed because they've dropped that psychological or mental weight that they've been carrying.
Yeah. When we have, I won't go into this at all today, but we have done brain mapping, like high level brain mapping. Sarah's been brain mapped. I have, my son has, and we brain mapped veterans and first responders and my past. And you can see things like PTS, anxiety, suicidal ideation, traumatic brain injury, hormonal imbalance. So we got data on that is like shows the brain with it and without it.
Mhm.
But yeah, it's pretty cool when you
Yeah.
see somebody. A lot of times people will be smiling. I'll be like, "That's a real smile," and then they're like, "Oh my god, you're right," and then like
Mhm.
tears of joy come out. So yeah, the emotions, you'll know it. When I ripped out anger and resentment, it was wild. I would literally go, "Wow, I'm not feeling this," and guilt and shame. I'd wake up in the morning and go, "I hate myself. I suck." And then when that got disconnected, I'd wake up and be like, "Wait, I'm supposed to not like myself." And I wasn't depressed, but it would be an initial thought that I wasn't consciously wanting to think it. It's kind of weird, but it is neat as time goes on. And that's where I'll tell people, like, look, the people you love are around you the most. They're going to notice probably even quicker than you. And they're also going to notice if there's other triggers that come to the surface. So this is one other thing I want to hit on. I've worked with a lot of suicidal teenagers. And I tell parents, for some reason, this seems very typical with teenagers who are struggling really bad. We'll run the process, first session, disconnect the big traumas and maybe a couple of big emotions. And I'll tell their parents, look, they might wake up and be Grumpelstiltskin or be an angry elf here. They might feel some of that come to the surface, or they might be really sad and seem like a little depressed, that's normal. When that happens, I want to know. And one of my clients in particular, the next day, the parents like, Nick, holy cow, like this kid is super angry. Got on a session right away, ran the process, disconnected the anger. Kid went back to school, graduated, super happy, plenty of success happening. And that was like right after a suicide attempt. So that's why it's so important, those first two, is that you get rid of the heavy stuff, and then the other emotions that have been being suppressed by the brain, they come to the surface, and it's like, okay, let's go get rid of those. Let's knock those out.
I think one thing we haven't touched on is medication, and maybe you can speak to that and how that interplays with what you do.
Yeah. So uh, a lot of, I have a number of clients that are clients that come to me that are actually therapists, psychologists, psychiatrists, medical doctors. Usually it's with a very skeptical eye at first. And then once I work with them, they're like, hey, how do I get trained? Or this is amazing. And we start collaborating with clients. I also have clients that come to me that are working with a therapist. I think that's great. What I do is very targeted, and what I do is not therapy. We are not getting into the weeds and discussing everything. If you think, I've had clients tell me, like, Nick, if you were kind of ahead a conveyor belt of people to see, it would have been great to see you first. Because, like, Sarah and I are married. We've had some really tough times in our marriage, and we have great times in our marriage. But when things are tough, and whether it's husband and wife or kids or parental relationships, when there's a lot of emotional triggers, trying to sit down and do talk therapy around how to communicate, it can turn into explosiveness, and it can turn into a lot of hurt. And you walk away almost feeling worse than you did when you walked in. The clients that I've worked with who are in therapy actively, when we're done, they're like, man, this is great. Like, I can go talk about my stuff and I'm not all emotionally triggered around it anymore. So I see it as a very collaborative process. With medications, obviously, I'm not a medical doctor, so I do not prescribe or tell people, hey, get off your meds. What I will tell you is I've worked with many people who have been on meds. A lot of them end up off their meds with their doctor's help and discretion. What I will say is that usually after 2 to 3 sessions, people are feeling really good, and they'll ask me, hey, should I get off my meds? And I'm like, no, you should go talk to the person that prescribed them, have a conversation, talk about what side effects are there. Maybe you're still having some side effects from the meds. Some medications actually have suicidal ideation, anxiety and depression and headaches and other things as side effects. And maybe you're feeling side effects. So sometimes I'll pause our work. Maybe we get 3 or 4 sessions in. And if you're feeling a little bit funky, I might say, talk to your doctor and see if you can come up with a plan to come off the meds. Because if we go after whatever's left and there's still something there, then you know, okay, it's not the meds. I've done my work. I'm not somebody that you should have to keep seeing. As a matter of fact, I want you to fire me as fast as possible and then to send me somebody else to work with, because it's very easy to hold my feet to the fire as if the process is working or not. As long as you come into it with the expectation of, hey, on average, it's 3 to 4 sessions. Have I worked with people that were 2 sessions? Yep, absolutely. They feel amazing. But what I don't want to do is have somebody go out after 1 and go, oh, no, I'm not having nightmares anymore. But now I'm a Rumpelstiltskin with my family, and it hurts your family. And to that, I think you had shared earlier, what if you don't know if you have trauma? This will probably be one of the last pieces I hit on, but trauma, a lot of people think the big bad stuff. You think explosions, sexual trauma, military veterans, first responders, car accidents. Yes. Stuff that's really bad, that, somebody dies, like loss of life. Those are all traumatic events. Yes. But I'm going to use my own example because I didn't even know it was trauma, and I was doing this work for a few years. So I went through divorce as a child. Parents got divorced. Mom said dad wasn't coming home again. I thought dad died. So that was like trauma 1, but to me, it wasn't severe. Went through a really bad divorce. And my kids were 3 and 1, went bankrupt, lost the house, kids, cars, everything. It was not good for anybody. It was a horrible event. And 8 years later, Sarah and I get married, and biggest trauma of my life. No, not the biggest trauma of my life. See, my jokes are horrible. But we get married, and I made a career change. So I went into financial planning at that time, and there were 2 exams you got to take, specifically the Series 7 and 66. I'm not a bookworm. I'm a show me how to do it person. So I'm studying for the Series 66. I went snowboarding with my daughter and my family, and I caved the back of my helmet in. I crashed so hard. I don't even remember the crash. I was unconscious for probably about 10 minutes. The accident, to me, I've done a lot of stuff, dirt bike, jumping out of airplanes. The accident didn't scare me, but I became, because it rung my bell so bad, the next few days were, well, next couple months were really bad. But I woke up and I'm like, man, I can't talk to people. How do you work in the financial planning field if you can't talk to people? So in my mind, I'm like, oh my God, I just got married. We just had a son. She's going to leave me. I'm going to go bankrupt. I'm going to lose everything again. That's fear, terror, and helplessness. That is the worst thing in my life, going through that. So I didn't think that was trauma. But what started happening, I healed mostly from the brain injury, but I was having nightmares 4 nights a week that Sarah's walking out on me. She's gone. And we had some struggles in our marriage at the time. It was like, it all seemed to compound at the same time. And I was also having severe tension headaches. So it was probably 3 years later. And a friend walked me through the process. I was like, look, maybe my neck stuff, my tension headaches are a result of this. I still wasn't even thinking it was trauma until it disconnected. And then I'm like, oh my gosh, it was the fear, terror, and helplessness that I was going to lose the woman I love, my family, all of it all over again, and feel the worst pain I ever felt all over again. And nightmares went away, tension headaches completely shifted. And it was like I was so much clearer. I can't explain it. So I have many times had people go, well, it's not trauma or that's not traumatic. And I'm here to tell you, just from my own personal experience, the thing that I thought would not be trauma at all was actually, it's, again, post-traumatic stress is just an injury where the memory and emotions get stored in your amygdala. And your body knows how to heal it if it's given the right ingredients. Any other
Right.
brain buster big questions?
I think you covered everything I could think of that I would have asked you 8 years ago.
All right. What would you say to the person that's maybe on the fence, maybe they've been struggling for a long time? What would you say to them?
Save yourself a lot of time, money, energy in searching for all the self-help things that I did in my early 20s and early 30s before Nick got into this. I was constantly searching what was going to fix my funk, and nothing was permanent until he walked me through the process. So I'd like to save you the decades of searching and just do a couple of sessions, and then you can do other modalities and other, therapy or communication or courses or whatever to enhance, maybe your joy, hobbies, communication, but get rid of the funk that's holding you back from being who you're meant to be.
And if you're a husband and you're watching this with your wife right now, if you just elbowed her or like, honey, you got to do this.
No.
No,
Mm.
back up, rewind that one and go, honey, you know what? I'll bet you if I go through this, it'll help our marriage or something to that effect. We all have something, right? But the wrong way to go about it is to push somebody. People don't want to be pushed. And if you call me to do a discovery call, you go to the anxietywise.com website and you book a discovery call, you're talking to me. We are going to get on a 30 to 45-minute Zoom call. You can ask whatever questions you want. We can go deeper into about me personally, my background, anything's on the table, and I can go deeper into the processes. It's not a sales call. On that call, I'm going to make sure that you can do the visualization piece and that we can feel the emotions. We've had a couple of people over the years where they just really struggle with that. And I don't want it to be a bad experience. And I don't want to take your money if this is not going to be effective for you. So all that will get discussed, how it works, how it operates, but it's not a sales call. There's zero pressure. I meet you and it's on your time, not mine. But if you're sitting with somebody that needs to go through this, oftentimes parents will say, can you fix my kid? And I'm like, what's up? And like, well, they got really bad anxiety. And I'll go, well, who has anxiety? You or your spouse? And they're like, how did you know? Because kids model behavior. So if you're constantly worried about your health, maybe you're on that, again, I don't like the labels, but hypochondriac, where it's like everything's going to make you sick. And now you're noticing that your kid's getting to be 13, 14, 15, and they're constantly worried about that. Or your younger kids are expressing a lot of anger and frustration and they're getting angry really quick. This was us.
Mhm.
We both had anger triggers. People that know us would not describe us as angry people at all, but we would snap quickly around the kids or with them at times. Our patience was low. A lot of parents out there, you're stressed, you're working hard, come home, kids is chaos. So, and a lot of, I'd say the wives out there have man babies that they're also raising. I'll pick on myself a little bit here. Um, but when we brought our temperature down, our emotional temperature down, our little kids' emotional temperature shifted. And yes,
Um,
I can work with kids. On the emotion side, usually I want them to be closer to like 10, 11, 12. Depends on how mature they are. But if it's trauma, we worked with kids as young as 4 years old. If they've experienced a traumatic event, their kids are super visual. We'll add things in like, hey, you're watching Minions on the couch. The Minions are watching your movie. And it's fun. It's interactive. That's the one thing I'll end this with is that you really, and you tell me if I'm wrong, Sarah, to be brutally honest, but when people work with me, I get the, wow, I feel really chill. I feel lighter, relaxed. That was enjoyable. There's other modalities out there. I've had a lot of people that have been through the alphabet soup of modalities, and there's some that are pretty effective. What I'll tell you is that I didn't create this body of work. I didn't come up with it on my own. I'll give you the whole background of this stuff if we do a discovery call, if that's what you want. Some people are like, look, I just want to know it works. Does it work? Explain to it a little bit more how it works. That's why I'm putting this out there for you guys. But the work that I do, if you're feeling it, you should not feel it when we're done. And again, it's not going to change who you are as a person. It's going to actually make you a higher performer. It's going to put you back in control of your emotions. People aren't going to be able to poke the bear and make the triggers come out. You're going to be able to stay calmer. Hey, why are you doing that? What about that is important to you? How so specifically? You're going to ask questions that are going to be like, make the other person kind of go, why didn't you just react and trigger to me, right? So, I don't know. I think with that, it's a pretty good explanation. And I hope to see some of you on a discovery call so that you can feel the heel, or as I like to say, fix the funk in the trunk. So anything to add to that, honey?
No.
All right. Thanks for listening, guys, and we'll see you soon.